Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to discuss WPA2 PSK. Many routers provide WPA2 PSK, TKIP or WPA2 PSK AES encryption as an option. There are of course options like wired equivalent privacy or WEP, or just Wi-Fi protected access, which is just WPA. And Wi-Fi, of course, we are looking for Wi-Fi protected access to, in our case is WPA2. These are the primary algorithms you will see when setting up a wireless network. While WEP is the oldest and has proven to be vulnerable as more and more security flaws have been discovered, the WPA improved security but is now also known to be considered vulnerable to intrusion. So WPA2, while not perfect, is currently the most secure choice. Temporal Key Integrity Protocol (TKIP) and Advanced Encryption Standard or AES are the two different types of encryption you will see to be available on the networks secured with WPA2. TKIP and AES are two different types of encryption that can be used by a Wi-Fi network. TKIP is actually an older encryption protocol introduced with WPA to replace the very insecure WEP encryption at that time. TKIP is actually quite similar to WEP encryption. TKIP is no longer considered secure and it is now deprecated. In other words, it shouldn't be used anymore. AES is a more secure encryption protocol introduced with WPA2. AES isn't some cracky standard developed specifically for Wi-Fi networks. It is a serious worldwide encryption standard that's even been adopted by the US government. For example, you can encrypt a hard drive with a TrueCrypt. It can use AES encryption for that. AES is generally considered quite secure, and the main weakness would be brute force attack and security weaknesses in other aspects of WPA2. The short version is that the TKIP is an older encryption standard used by WPA, and AES is a newer Wi-Fi encryption solution used by the new and secure WPA2 standard. And in theory, that's the end of it. But depending on your router, just choosing WPA2 may not be good enough. While WPA2 is supposed to use AES for optional and optimal security, it can also use TKIP, where backwards compatibility with devices is needed. In such a state, devices that support WPA2 will connect with WPA2, and devices that support WPA will connect with WPA. So the WPA2 doesn't always mean WPA2 AES. The PSK stands for pre-shared key. The pre-shared key is generally the encryption passphrase. This distinguishes it from the WPA Enterprise, which uses a radius server to hand out unique keys or large corporate or government Wi-Fi networks. So to sum up, you should use WPA2 with a TKIP only if you have some old devices that you're going to connect to that network. And in the other cases, you should use WPA2 with the AES. This is the best choice for newer routers that support AES. And of course, you should also keep in mind that the TKIP is a little bit slower and could slow down the connection. The WPA2 with AES and TKIP is an alternative for legacy clients that do not support AES. When you use WPA2 with AES and TKIP, you could experience slower transmit speed, as I said. The reason for that is that the group ciphers will always drop to the lowest cipher. On the other hand, AES uses more computing power. So if there are many devices, there might be some reduction in productivity are in the network. The maximum transfer rate For networks using WEP or WPA with TKIP passwords, is 54 megabits. There are different solutions and versions for the wireless security, and we can of course start with the open Wi-Fi networks which have no passphrase. They shouldn't be set up and they shouldn't be used. This is really insecure. The WEP64, that's an old WEP protocol standard and is vulnerable and you shouldn't be used again. The WEP128 is a WEP but with a larger encryption key size, and it isn't really any less vulnerable than the WEP64. WPA PSK with TKIP uses the original version of WPA protocol and it isn't secure. The WPA PSK AES uses the original WPA protocol but replaces the TKIP with the more modern AES encryption. It's offered as a stopgap, but devices that support AES will almost always support WPA2, while devices that require WPA will almost never support AES encryption. The WPA2 PSK with TKIP uses the modern WPA2 standard with an older TKIP encryption. This again isn't secure and is only a good idea if you have an older device that can't connect to a WPA2 PSK AES network. The WPA2 PSK AES is the most secure option. It uses WPA2, the latest Wi-Fi encryption standard, and the latest AES encryption protocol. For compatibility reasons, there is a mixed option of WPA and WPA2 PSK with TKIP and AES encryption, and it is recommended just for compatibility. When setting up your Wi-Fi, you should keep in mind that the WPA and TKIP compatibility options can also slow down your Wi-Fi network. Many modern Wi-Fi routers that support the 802.11n and newer, faster standards will slow down to 54 megabits if it is enabled with the WPA or TKIP in their option. They do this to ensure the compatibility with these older devices. By comparison, even 802.11n supports up to 300 megabits, and if you're using WPA2 with AES, theoretically the 802.11ac offers the maximum speed of 3.46 gigabits under the optimum. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you learned something new and interesting about Wi-Fi, different types of encryption and encryption protocols, and how to use them, some benefits and some negatives of the different types. And if you like this video, just click the like button and subscribe for more videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.